If you've ever wondered why some Muslims become violent while others don't, it's a good idea to listen to ex-Muslims discuss their experiences being raised as Muslims. I just watched a video from a former Muslim who was describing the inner conflict he had growing up as a Salafi Muslim in London. Let's go through some of this video. I want to get to the point he makes at the end.
I was brought up believing that the West is at war with Islam, and that because the West is at war with Islam, the West is therefore a legitimate target for attacks. So growing up in London, and I was born and raised in London, growing up in London, I was taught that I was living in enemy territory, that everyone surrounding me was the enemy, that they were out there to get me.
Notice he said he was taught that he was in enemy territory. So either his parents or his Muslim leaders were teaching him that the non-Muslims around him were his enemies. Needless to say, viewing everyone around you as your enemy can affect the way you interpret various events.
And it was within this kind of mentality that when 9/11 happened and all the conspiracy theories started flying around about the Americans making it up and doing it so that they could have an excuse to invade Muslim countries, I believed them because it fitted with what I believed in, with what I had been taught.
Now, if you view the people around you as the enemies of Muslims, how are you going to interpret the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan?
And then when the Afghanistan and Iraq wars happened, I understood them in a way that explained that actually the reason why they were attacking these Muslim countries was simply because they were Muslim, because they wanted to kill Muslim people. I honestly believed that, even as and kind of growing up as like a 16-year-old.
So the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan are wars against Muslims, and you're a Muslim living behind enemy lines. What do you do?
So when those wars happened, I got really angry and I thought, see, they're doing it just to kill Muslims. Therefore, I want to actually take revenge and carry out an attack in London.
But our ex-Muslim friend obviously didn't end up carrying out a terrorist attack. Why didn't he join so many of his fellow Muslims in slaughtering unbelievers in the name of Allah? He gives us a few reasons.
The first reason is simply because I just didn't have the means available to me. If I had the means available to me when I was at my most radical and my most angry, then I think I probably would have carried out an attack.
So he was willing to carry out an attack at one point in life. He was angry enough to carry out an attack. He just didn't have the means. He didn't have a gun or a bomb, so he kept waiting. Do you think there are other young Muslims who are willing to carry out an attack but simply don't have the means? I think so. I also think that you'd better give them some good reasons to reject Islam or at least doubt it before they get the means. Next reason.
The second reason was that kind of held me back was the fact that I didn't want to get caught. And I know that sounds silly, but it's a very simple reason. And I wanted to do it kind of properly without getting caught, and I didn't have the means available to kind of do it properly under the radar.
Here he's just thinking like a criminal. I don't want to get caught, so I need to wait until I come up with a plan that will allow me to carry out an attack without getting caught. Self-preservation. But whatever keeps you from killing people. Next reason.
But then, after a little while of thinking about this, it viscerally just kind of felt wrong. And it just felt wrong killing people, innocent people. And because of that, I started looking for a reason to kind of find a reason to not carry out a terror attack, to kind of look for a reason for why terror attacks were wrong in Salafi Islam. And I was brought up as a Salafi. And I sought those interpretations and explanations out, and I found them.
His conscience got to him. Glad this guy's not a psychopath. He simply felt that it was wrong to kill innocent people. And so he started looking for some justification within Salafi Islam not to wage jihad. Pretty creepy when you have to struggle to find reasons in your religion not to slaughter people. But he says he found such reasons.
Because you're a British citizen, you have, in effect, um, an agreement with the British state saying that you will not carry out attacks. Therefore, you should not carry out attack. You should not carry out attacks because carrying out attacks will go against that agreement. Um, and I found this convincing, and I stopped myself from carrying out attacks.
Because you're a British citizen, you're under a kind of agreement with your country not to attack it. I've heard people like Anjem Choudary say the same thing. Anjem Choudary is clearly a fan of jihad, but when he's asked why he shouldn't be considered dangerous, he says that Muslims in Great Britain have an agreement with Great Britain not to attack it. Putting all of this together, we can see once again that there are different kinds of Muslims. There are Muslims who love their countries and would never dream of attacking their fellow citizens. But there are Muslims who believe that they're in enemy territory, living in countries that they believe are at war with Islam. What are they supposed to do? Well, if they're looking for a reason not to attack the non-Muslims around them, they can find a reason not to attack. They can say, you know, there's a kind of contract at work, a contract between me and my country, and I'm not going to violate that contract. If they're not looking for a reason not to kill people, then we end up seeing their pictures on the evening news, where we'll be reminded once more that none of this has anything to do with Islam. I'm starting to think that this has something to do with Islam.